Ladies, what is going on out there in the world of dating? Why all the drama? Why all the TikTok videos showing hysterical, crying, women declaring to the world how hurt they are, how abandoned they are, how badly they're being treated, how awful men are? I don't know what purpose that is serving, and it does make me wonder where our pride has gone. Now, my interest in this subject comes from the fact that I have been a professional intuitive consultant for 29 years this year. And the vast majority of my customers, when specifying what they want to know about, are asking about their love lives, and not when their love life is going hunky-dory, because then they wouldn't need to have a consultation. So it's either going to be, how do I get my ex back? Or is my ex coming back? I've met a love interest. How is that going to go? When am I ever going to find commitment? When am I going to get married? So those really head the list. Small number of people asking about existing relationships, but usually they're single, and they tend to be from people in their 20s up to their mid-40s on the whole. I have noticed there is a huge increase in the number of women in their 30s who are finding dating incredibly difficult. And look, let's face it, there's a lot of very, very attractive ladies out there on the internet crying their eyes out because of their love life, so there's nothing wrong with the way that they look. So what is really going on? Well, unfortunately, the way society is now set up, and there's no getting away from it, it is what it is. And we can keep banging our head on the wall, we can keep complaining, we can keep crying, bitching, pointing the finger, but it is the way it is. And although I'm not an expert on the subject, all of my research has led me to see certain truths, if you like. So one of them is that the vast majority of women who are looking for a partner are now all competing over the same small pool of men. And even research on dating sites has shown this, that there's say a top 20% of men that all the women want. Well, now these men, unfortunately, have decided that they can pick and choose, and picking and choosing they are. And I watched a video very recently of two guys talking about their love life, and it was appalling. It was bloody appalling. And they were comparing notes, and they were picking attractive women up and dropping them. They were 2, 3, 4 women on the go at one time. It was really awful. But the problem is, the women still wanted these men. They're attractive, they're confident, they know how to schmooze, they know how to say the right things. But the behaviour is disgusting. But then again, what is it with women? Why? It seems like that the worse a guy behaves, the more they want him. So, there's right and wrong on both sides. And that has got to be taken into account. There's some ridiculous behaviour going on out there. Also, there is another problem. And it's hard to argue with this in one way, because the problem is that a lot of women now, their mantra is, I'm a strong, independent-minded woman. I don't need a man. But what they're forgetting is actually a man doesn't need her either. And society has set things up in such a way now, and it's been developing over the last few years. So women have wanted equality, nothing wrong with that. Women have wanted to make their own decisions, nothing wrong with that. Women have wanted to have fun, nothing wrong with that. But you see, what's happened along the way is men have picked up a message, and men have become programmed. And men and women think very differently. And I've written a blog post on this years ago. And I think the title, if I can remember rightly, is Women Don't Want a Man, They Want a Woman with a Penis. So the list of demands that women have for their ideal man it really largely often sounds like they want a woman. They want their best girlfriend with a penis. Or, on the other hand, they want a Superman. And so there's this huge list of demands: how tall he has to be, how much money he has to earn. He's got to be sensitive. He's got to be strong. He's got to protect them. He's got to pull the chair out for them at the table. He's got to date them. He's got to pay for stuff. And yet at the same time, they're still banging on about being independent-minded, strong women who don't need a man. So men, and I'm not a man basher, by the way, and I'm not a woman basher either. I've no time for either of those. But men don't think like women. And so you've got two groups of men, as far as I can see. You know, it's probably not specifically broken up, but in one group, you've got the guys who are barely getting a look in. They're terrified of women. They're terrified. And for good reason, because they're hearing all of this: strong, independent-minded woman, I don't need a man. He's got to be this, he's got to be that. Okay, so now these guys are all cowering away. And then on the other hand, we've got those who have gotten into the top 20%. And they know that there's a lot of competition out there. Because, you know, recently I was listening to a video and they were talking about how dating has changed since the 1950s. So a lot of women were married by the time they'd finished school or college. They went from finishing school to getting married in their late teens, early 20s. That was the way it was done. And I'm not saying that's right and that's what we should return to. But we've had this big shift in the years since then. And so women have wanted their independence. But the thing is, a lot of women have gone, single women, or women who are still single, they've gone way too far, a lot of them. And they're coming with such big attitude. I mean, awful attitude. If I was a man, I'd run a mile. And so, but if you say this stuff out there in the world, you are going to get jumped on from a great height, I can promise you. And I probably will be jumped on from a great height. But it can't go on like this. So there's the group of men that the women, largely speaking, don't want. They're not good looking enough, they're not confident enough, they don't earn enough, whatever it is. Then there's this other group who think they can have whatever they want, whoever they want, whenever they want. And unfortunately, they're being proven right. And it also struck me that a lot of how we're presenting ourselves in the world. So it is, we don't see the human being, okay? We see a pose. So a number of women have said that they've turned up for first dates with some guy that they met on a dating app, and he said to them, "You're much fatter than you look on your pictures." Now that is not a nice thing to say, and that will crush the spirit and the self-confidence. And if a woman's got any common sense, she will just remove herself immediately. However, on the other hand, it's probably true. We have to present ourselves as we are, because somebody's going to find out sooner or later that we don't look like that. I've known a couple of young women who were for a while going on dating apps, and they were showing me how it worked. And I felt really turned off by these guys who were topless and tattooed and oiled. And I thought, oh my God, you make me feel sick. But that's because I'm older. That's because I'm older. But what is that about? And then women posing, it's just what? So now it's all become highly sexualized. So it's got to change. But women, you've got to change. And it's not because you're completely wrong and because the men are completely right. But I think men started to change because women started to change. But then maybe the change went too far. So any woman who's crying on the internet because, tearing her hair out and looking for sympathy and looking for validation about how awful men are, well, I'm sorry, but you need to think about what you're doing. energetically, the message you are putting out there is not going to be helpful. It's going to be pretty repellent. You're not helping yourself, and you're looking like an idiot. You look like an idiot for doing it. And if any man was to see that, he wouldn't touch you with a barge pole. So my first advice is stop making all of your business completely public. Secondly, have a think about how you present yourselves. Now, so if you've got this big list of demands for a man, he must be this, he must be that, he must be the other. Well, you've got to apply the same demands to yourself. Your girlfriends may tell you you're a goddess, you're wonderful, you're perfect as you are. It might not be true. Other single women, angry single women giving other angry single women advice is not really a great idea. So I think over time, I think this is salvageable, because I can promise you as an intuitive consultant that there are men out there looking for love. Okay, maybe a quarter of my customer base is male, but there are men out there looking for love. That is for sure. But they're not getting a look in. They're not getting a look in. And the pain of rejection keeps people hanging on. I can promise you, it keeps them hanging on. So one rejection will keep us hanging on, because we've got to resolve it. We've got to get an answer. We've got to be able to feel better through this rather than moving on. And then we do create patterns. There's so much I could say on the subject. It would go on and on forever. So I'm just going to finish by saying, look, ladies, there are some really grubby, horrible, disgusting men out there, and you're fighting over them. They're slime balls. I'm not a man basher. There are some really great men out there who deserve a look in. Maybe they're not so sophisticated. Maybe they're not earning a huge amount of money. Maybe, they're not Mr. Universe. Maybe they're not confident with their chat-up lines. But they are out there. And so I would say if you've been looking for love, not just a date, not just a hookup as it's called nowadays, but you're looking to develop a relationship with another human being, then you have to become more discerning. First of all, accept that this is the way it is now. You are competing with a lot of other very attractive women, because women are very attractive now. They have the income, they have the means. So you're competing with an ocean full of very attractive women who are all fighting over a small pool of men who think they've hit pay dirt. So that's got to change. So don't make your business public. Be very discerning about who you continue to associate with. Look out for the warning signs and move on quickly. Be patient. Be the best version of yourself. I don't mean the jacked up boobs, puffed up lips. I've got all this income, I've got my own home. I mean you, the human being. Let that energy go out there. Let that message go out there. I know it sounds simplistic, but the agony of modern dating, it's got to stop. And somebody's got to start that new ball rolling. Anyway, there you go. There's my rant over. So, check out my website. The link is below. Check out some of my other videos. And I wish you luck. Bye.